The first story that we are tracking on India Global, the lead story, it's coming in from Bangladesh. 6 months it's been, over 6 months since the Yunus government came to power. Frustration is now growing within the reform committees that were appointed by the interim chief because those reports have been submitted. Remember, when Yunus came to power, the first thing he said was that every institution of the government needs to be reformed because he felt that it had been taken over by Sheikh Hasina's government and needed to be fixed, needed to be reformed before Bangladesh can return to normalcy, return to democracy. Now, patiently, people of Bangladesh have been waiting for over 6 months now. Reform commissions were set up. Those reports have come in. One, in fact, came in the month of December. One has come in the month of January. But guess what? No action has been taken. Officials are claiming that the government is unwilling to, in fact, take action as per those reports. This comes in even as Bangladesh Interim Government's Chief Adviser Muhammad Yunus has only one tune to sing, and that is the Hasina tune. He has once again spoken out and said that Dhaka had sent formal letters to India seeking deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's extradition. No formal request has come so far. In an interview, he said that Hasina will stand trial for crimes against humanity, and the state-run news agency reported that. The fact is, before I play out the Muhammad Yunus soundbite, viewers, it is okay to talk about Sheikh Hasina's fate, but it's not okay to only talk about that at the cost of bringing your country back to transition. And that's what it's beginning to look like. Before we debate what's the future like for Bangladesh, listen in to what Muhammad Yunus had to say.
She will stand trial, there's no doubt about that, because all the evidences are here. But she's not physically present in Bangladesh. So the question is, can we make her present in Bangladesh? That depends on India and also international law guiding all this system, how it works. So we'll be already asked India to hand over Hasina to Bangladesh to face the trial. So the question of trial is not if it will be happening in absentia or in her presence. It will be taking place, not only her, and all the people who were associated with her family members, her clans, her associates, and all the oligarchs, people who promoted her, supported her, made her the way she is.
Okay, so the question that we are asking today on India Global, is Muhammad Yunus reluctant on reform? Is he totally focused on Sheikh Hasina? And why is it that it's now looking like that he's focused on witch hunt rather than reform? The other question that we're asking on India Global, that what really is Muhammad Yunus's roadmap for reform? Because two of those commissions, their reports have been submitted, those reports are lying and no action has been taken. So what really is his roadmap? And most importantly, will he actually deliver on the promises of reform, or was it just another bogey to delay the democratic transition that needs to take place for Bangladesh? And lastly, without reform, does this mean that the election timeline, the goalpost of that has shifted once again? That's another question that we're posing on India Global today. Mubin Shadman Khan is joining me from Bangladesh, and we have Ambassador Anil Trigunayat also on the broadcast. Ambassador Trigunayat, let me start with you, and we'll try and keep our answers short so that we try and cover as much ground as possible. Ambassador Trigunayat, I said this at the beginning of the broadcast, which is it's okay to talk about Hasina as long as you're focused on bringing Bangladesh back to normalcy. But what's not okay is Reform Commission reports lying and no action being taken, while Muhammad Yunus continues to just keep talking about Sheikh Hasina all the time.
Exactly, Gaurie. The thing is that he's been buying time. He set up these committees that have submitted the report in January, and the action should have been initiated. Instead, we have seen the situation in Bangladesh, about 10% inflation, reducing investments, foreign exchange crises, and all other kinds of problems are happening. And that is why the people who really wanted a change, wanted the revolution to succeed, are getting disenchanted by that. We have seen that a new party has been created there by the students who had come in his support and resigning from the post, and they're delaying the elections or a democratic transition, obviously, is one of the tactics that is being employed, for which you have the other kind of requests as which are extraneous, not even extraneous, but which are actually distracting the attention, which are coming out in this, bashing India, doing those kind of things. And that doesn't help much. India has stood with them. India has stood with government in transition and provided every possible assistance that is necessary. At the same time, they have to see about the countries,
Yes.
because the way it is going down is something that needs to be worried.
Exactly. Mr. Khan, come in on that, that people of Bangladesh, they need those reforms that have been promised to them for the last 6 months. Where's the progress there?
Right. I think I think there's a little bit of confusion regarding what those reforms are and in elections. I see that the news feeds and while all of you are speaking, you're conflating the two. Most of the reform proposals, if you look into them, they're actually long term, right? There are some recommendations that are short term, but most of them have a range of, 4 or 5 years and all that. One of the reasons the focus has shifted away from reforms is because the political parties, at least the major one like BNP, is demanding an election. And there's also public sentiment towards election. And there's even international talk, like India is also asking about elections in Bangladesh. So one of the reasons the reforms have sort of taken a backseat, not fully. I know the report that you've referenced actually talks about only 2 committees. There are 6 other committees as well. But the main reason is Yunus has set a sort of a template on when the elections will be. It'll either be by December of this year or June of next year. And
Mr.
if he
Khan,
sticks to that date, then there isn't much scope to do long-term reforms. But I just want to add a little bit
yeah.
that he did mention he is going to have a meeting with political parties in Bangladesh, and he will only go ahead with the reforms if they sort of agree with it.
Okay.
And whoever doesn't agree with any reform, he has promised to put it out on a website.
Fair
to
enough.
point out to the Bangladeshi people.
This is not
Yeah,
about,
sorry, go on.
this is not about the reforms per se, but I go back to the first statement that you said, that most of those reforms may be long-term in nature, may not go through,
Right.
and the Yunus government may in fact go for polls because everybody's asking for it. Which brings me to ask you
Right.
that why do the entire process and delay the electoral process in the name of reforms if it was quite clear that this may take longer than a year? So it should have been that start the election process and continue the reform agenda parallelly. Why do it one after the other?
I don't know if they did it one after the other. I think what happened was right after August, there was a lot of strong demands for reform, right? Because there was this sense that Hasina had destroyed the Bangladeshi institutions, and these institutions need to be fixed. And there was a lot of public support for that, even from the political parties. I think what has happened over the last 6 months is because of the economic situation, because of the law and order situation, it's a little unstable, and people are getting antsy. So the general direction has moved towards having elections earlier, which is why reforms have sort of taken a backseat. But the reforms were popular, and they still are. And even BNP or the major political parties are talking about some of the reforms. So at least it is expected that before election, Yunus will start off some of the reforms, and whoever comes next, if they have a buy-in into those reform proposals, they'll take it forward.
Ambassador Trigunayat, come in there on the fact that some of these reforms may actually now be long-term in nature, even as that the election process may probably start before some of these reforms get going, which brings me to ask, why wait for so long?
Well, they don't have to wait for so long. In any case, there are no reforms that are immediate. All reforms are current, they're ongoing reforms, and they will be implemented in due course and will be implemented possibly better by an elected government than by a transition government. That is not quite possible always, and acceptability is always doubted in that sense, or the intent as well. But it is good that they have set up those 6 committees. They have submitted the reports. There are constitutional reforms that are also there. Now, if you are going to change all that, now you don't have the legal mandate to do so, or constitutional mandate to do so. Therefore, it is perhaps good for Bangladesh to go through the electoral process as soon as possible, announce it so that the public empathy and trust in the interim government increases. Because see, you are not able to deliver on the day-to-day requirements. You're not able to bring down the prices. You are not able to do many things there. So there is a distrust that is growing on. Army has been telling them regularly. So are the student. There's so many of the reports one reads as what for it was. I mean that happens in every country wherever these kind of violent revolutions, so-called revolutions, take place. So you always have people who are dissatisfied because they think that there is going to be a change tomorrow itself. The expectations are very high.
Indeed.
When they think that a leader who was like running it her way or whichever way, so obviously they want that things are changing, so tomorrow will be the golden day for us. But that doesn't seem to happen. That is normally not happening in any country in the world. It is not happening in Bangladesh. But he prolongs. That means he loses his credibility internationally as well as with the people of Bangladesh.
Mr. Khan, is it what it's turning out to be, that Muhammad Yunus's credibility may be on the line if he delays elections?
I mean, he's been very firm on that, right? I know you hear certain voices about people saying elections might be delayed. There are some people in and around him who are trying to say that, the youth political party and all that, but he's been very strict on the deadline he set, right? And at least his official spokesperson has constantly reiterated that, which is why he sort of still holds a position, even though there are some doubts about how the government is being run. There's criticism about, say, for example, the Home Minister and all that. Yunus's reputation or Yunus's credibility has so far been intact, largely because he's actually been very clear about elections or how long he wants to stay and all that, right? So I don't think it's specific to Yunus is not the issue, but you could, in the larger frame, you could say there are elements within, in and around the government who would like to stay on longer.
Leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking out the time, joining me on this edition of India Global. Viewers, well, the bottom line on this is that just when one thought Bangladesh's return to democracy is on the horizon, Dhaka's journey seems to have hit yet another snag. Well, because Yunus administration has only one agenda. It's most definitely not to fix Bangladesh or to ensure economic recovery, but of course to keep talking about Hasina extradition. It is in fact looking more like a witch hunt than an earnest request by a government to ensure that justice takes place. Remember, inflation is skyrocketing. Global investors are on the tenterhooks. In fact, they've made it clear that there will be no investments until a full government comes to power. Not only this, there are reform commissions that are up in arms. The fact is, Bangladesh sought for a change. It's unclear whether those student protests really wanted the kind of violence that Bangladesh saw. But one thing is clear, young people of Bangladesh want change. And change will happen when elections will take place. We don't want them to get disenchanted. Muhammad Yunus doesn't want them to get disenchanted. A violent country on the pretty much on the boil needs its young people being full of hope and not disenchanted.